Welcome to Meet the Shop Teachers. I'm your host, Leonard Kaplan, and today's guest, we have the leader of the shop teachers, Mr. Chad Fallon. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Mr. Kaplan. Thanks for having me.
And there's a lot to talk about because you're in charge of, I think it's 15 to 17 teachers here at the Medford Vocational Technical High School.
Yeah, well, it's 15 programs, so yeah, more teachers than that. Some of our programs have multiple teachers. I just finished, well, almost have finished my second year here at the Vocational Technical High School. It's been great. I think with any career, with any job change, it takes a year to really not only learn the job, but to pick up on the culture and the climate of the school. And it took me a year to get acquainted with that. Year two's been even better. Looking forward to year three.
So what is the overall difference between now and when you came in? More opportunities, less opportunities?
So
what are you seeing?
So what we're seeing is increased enrollment. We have about a 30% increased enrollment from last year, and then from 2 years ago, even more. I think with the 15 programs we offer, students and parents alike are seeing the value in vocational education, which I would tell you I've always seen, but I think people forget, and I think people forget what Medford has to offer. My background is in the regional vocational high schools, so we drew in kids from 7 to 15 towns in the two schools I worked in. It's different. You apply to be at those schools, and there's a wait list. There's a wait list hundreds long at most of the 50 regional vocs throughout the state. Medford's unique because it's an internal school within a school. So I think parents are beginning to see that this is an option for their son or daughter. They're faced with college debt of older children they may have, and they may be able to see a different path for their son or daughter. And I think students are seeing it too. Students are seeing that they want to trade. They want something they can fall back on above and beyond college. So I think there's a renewed interest in vocational education. I think there's a renewed interest in the trades and students doing something other than college or along with college when they graduate. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've been part of the last 2 years, is really that revitalization. Our teachers are excited, our students are excited. They easily share their excitement with the community. So I think that's a result of the enrollment boost.
There are many vocational schools throughout the state. How do parents and kids pick one? Because you don't have to do it in the city that you live in.
So most towns are part of a regional agreement. So Minuteman Technical High School, which is in a neighboring town, pulls from 5 to 8 different communities. Medford wouldn't do that because Medford has its own. So we're not regional. We don't pull in students from other districts, although we do have some students from Everett because we have a partnership with them. We have a partnership with Cambridge Ringe and Latin, Madison Park, Somerville High School. We're all within this collaborative group, if you will, that if we don't offer a program here, we might say to Somerville High School, will you take this student who wants this program that we don't have, and it won't be a tuition expense because we have this between each other. But if you're a Medford resident, you don't have to worry about being on a wait list. This is your school. You're not competing with students from other districts. So we don't have a wait list right now. Although, as enrollment continues to increase, we will probably find ourselves in a different position within the next 2 years. We're already seeing it now with certain programs that we offer. We're at capacity. So there will be some students that don't get their first choice. It's been nice for the last few years when freshmen make their selection for grade 10, pretty much 95 to 100% of our students get their first choice. As enrollment increases, there's popularity in certain programs. We may only have 20 spots for incoming sophomores, and we might have 25 applicants. So that's going to be a challenge.
Let's talk about HVAC. First of all, I hear that term all the time, and I think a lot of people out there might not know what HVAC is, because it used to be just called air conditioning or refrigeration or something like that.
I mean, so it stands for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration. It's one of the most frustrating things to see because so when I started last year, I had hired a new teacher. He ended up leaving in March to go back to industry. The year prior to me starting, a similar thing happened with the HVAC instructor. He was here and he left partway through the year. So both people left for jobs in industry because industry is paying. Right now, you can see within a mile radius of Medford, there's construction everywhere. The construction industry is booming. If you want to work in the trades, you're working. No one is at home not working who can work in the trades by. If you're home by choice. When there's a recession, it's an interesting time for vocational education because you have the tradesmen coming off the field and coming into teaching. When there's a boom in the economy, which is what's happening right now, and everyone's working, it's really hard for someone like an HVAC technician to walk away from a job of 6 figures plus, not including bonuses, to come and teach. So what we're going to have to do, and like I said, there's about 50 schools throughout the state of Mass that offer programs like we do. 8 of them are looking for an HVAC instructor. So that's trouble. That's trouble because, and these are spread throughout the state of Massachusetts. Something's going to have to happen where I envision myself approaching perhaps a large HVAC company or even not so large within the surrounding communities and really have a conversation with them about investing in the future. I have people calling me, we need HVAC technicians. I wish I could provide them with that, but we don't have the students because we don't have a teacher. So I think it's going to take the companies to invest in us. Do you have a technician who can come over and teach for 2 hours a day? Can we use your site for a practical-based experience? How can we work together to create this maybe new model of what this teaching is going to look like?
There are other industries or trades, as they would say, maybe coming up in the workplace. One that I can think of is solar energy. Do you foresee maybe in the future that might be a new shop class?
So that's actually part of the electrical program right now. They have a panel in the shop that they work on. We are always looking at ways to incorporate our knowledge of what it means to be LEED certified, green technologies. That really does fall under the electrical program. What's interesting is that a lot of schools now are building these separate units. A lot of the vocational schools, the school I was at recently, not recently, prior to being here, they had a greenhouse. They built a greenhouse and they had a building attached to it that was completely, LEED certified. And I envision probably we'd be doing that at some point, whether it be a small structure, whether it be taking a portion of the building and having that run off of solar panels. Who knows? Our teachers are very innovative, and especially the students in the electrical program, that's something that they're going to certainly embrace. We just are wrapping up a project now where the students from the CCSR came to us and they wanted to install a charging station for an electric car. So between our electrical program and our construction craft laborers program, they have dug the trench from the building out to the parking lot. They've laid the conduit and wire, and they're going to run it out there so that we'll have it starting with one, but we'll have one spot here at Medford, at the Medford High Complex, that'll be a charging station for an electric car.
There are a lot of trades that kind of overlap, like construction and carpentry and robotics and electricity. Do you see any of them splitting off from each other and becoming their own thing, or just staying the way that they are?
Splitting off in terms of
becoming their own, like the solar energy thing?
No, probably not. I think having 15 programs, I think we're serving the needs of our students. If I'm looking at programs to open within the next few years, one program I'd be looking at is plumbing. I just kind of have a feeling that I might have the same issue finding a teacher as I am for HVAC.
Right.
So I'm at the conversation stage now with some colleagues, and at some point I'll try to get a meeting with the Department of Secondary Education to really talk about what that would look like. For a program approval process, you have to show that there's a need. So you have to look at the labor statistics. You have to show the state, for all intents and purposes, that we're going to offer this program because we feel like there's a need. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. Everyone can say there's a need for a good plumber. But are we going to be able to get someone to teach it? I don't know if you've needed a plumber in the last year or 5 years, but they're hard to come by, they're expensive, and they're busy. So I feel like I could sell it, but it's a matter of actually getting someone to not just one, probably 2 teachers to run it. Another program I think is interesting is horticulture and landscape design. I think that's something to think about. I think that could be another option for students who are thinking of going into their own business, whether it be landscaping or masonry or landscape design is huge. It's much different than it used to be 20 years ago. So I am thinking about programs that would probably, that would look to in the next few years, yeah.
Now, you started in vocational school as a teacher, correct?
Correct.
What field were you in?
So I was actually an English teacher. I started that was what my bachelor's degree was in. And I started at Keefe Tech in Framingham. I was there for about just 10 years. And then from there, I was in an English teaching role, which kind of morphed into an administrative role while I was getting my graduate degree and educator administrator licensure. I stayed there. And then I took a job at Greater Lowell Tech, which is where I was for the last 7 years prior to Medford. And I was an administrator in that role, director of community relations, admissions, technology. I kind of went through a few roles as I progressed there. So along with that, I went to a vocational high school for myself. So I know how voc ed works. I get it. I've lived it. There's no other school I'd rather be in, because I think this is a great type of education for a lot of students. And it's really fun to be part of something now that has so much energy, and that people who might not normally consider a vocational education are listening and looking and watching to see what we do next. So it's really cool. It's a great time to be in voc ed, for sure.
I like the fact that the kids get to kind of pick where they're going to go after high school, directly into industry sometimes, and sometimes college
if they choose.
too.
Yep.
And it's a great opportunity to start very early.
Yeah.
In their careers.
Yeah.
Where do you see this place 10 years from now? Now, actually, I'm going to take that question back. How does the merger with the high school, we're all considered one with Medford High here, how does that affect your job?
So the best way to explain when people say, what does that mean? This is the Medford High complex, is what I say. And we have 2 schools. We have Medford High School, and we have Medford Vocational Technical High School. No merge will ever completely blend the 2 schools, because they couldn't be. What we have to do is figure out a way to better create a master building-wide schedule. The merge is at the point, we're merged as much as we can in absence of a building-wide schedule. The high school operates on a 6-day schedule. We operate on a 5-day. So our programs run Monday through Friday. Half of our programs are a week on, week off, meaning you're in class 1 week and your technical program the other week. Half of our programs run on a half-day schedule. So you spend the morning in your academics and the afternoon in your technical program. With those 2 variables right there, tossed in with the fact that the high school doesn't have a schedule that necessarily blends. Sometimes it does. So that's our biggest problem. So I know you took that question back, but it kind of leads into
No, it's
to
okay.
this statement.
You answered it.
When I think about even 5 years from now, enrollment, the trend right now is we are increasing enrollment. So with our increased enrollment is going to force the creation of a schedule that better fits all students. So while I'm frustrated on my end because I have students in the vocational school who want to take higher level courses that are offered at the high school in addition to their typical academic load, I also have high school students who want to be part of vocational programming. But it's really hard to have a high school student come in for a period. You teach 3 periods in a row. That's the structure of your program. You're one of the half-day programs. It would be difficult, I think, to have a student come in, let's say, during the middle of your 3 periods for 1 period.
Right.
So we have to figure out a better way to allow an elective-based component of our programs in addition to the full-on experience that students get when they choose this. The big difference is if you're a vocational student, 50% of your educational career is spent in your technical program. If you're a high school student, that's not the case. But if you want to take programming within our school, we have to figure out a better way to make that available. So take yourself, for example. I would envision that you have a prep period, an elective period, and then you're in your program. And that elective period would allow high school students to come over and take media technology and TV broadcasting as maybe a level 1 in sophomore year.
Right.
And then perhaps you offer a level 2 in junior year. Maybe by senior year, there's something where they can come for 2 periods. But this conversation needs to happen. I think the merge, and I just came into it, I had no control. I think there was good intent, and I think we got through phase one. And I think phase one was making it happen. And a lot of it's been great. I think phase two is the creation of a schedule to really fully implement.
Right. Well, that was great. I'm glad you came to the studio today and you see all the innovations that our station manager, Patrick Gordon, put in.
Patrick's a great guy.
And you see all the freshmen in control in there.
Nice job, guys.
And I think we're done. So thank you
right.
for joining
Thank
me.
you, Mr. Kaplan.
And we'll see you next time with another guest. Until then, so long.